So today, I wanted to do just a brief discussion about the Horsechopper, which is a weapon in the Pathfinder game, which is like a D&D, a Dungeons and Dragons game. So I decided that I wanted to play a warrior, a fighter, who had, grown up in a castle. His name is Farouk. He's a half-orc. He had grown up in a castle, the disgraced son of a lord, etc. Had led armies to victory. And I wanted him to be well-trained but sinister. He was neutral evil. And so I chose a particularly fitting weapon, the Horsechopper. It was evil-sounding. But importantly, it was a two-handed weapon, and it sounded pretty cool. No idea what it was. Never heard of it. So I looked them up. They don't exist. It's pretty clear. The description describes it. I don't have the exact text in front of me, but it's a two-handed weapon that had a big cutting edge on the top with a hook. So I drew like a image, just a really shitty little Sharpie picture off what I think it looked like off the description. Up here you can see there's a cutting edge, and there's this hook on a very long handle. It's a two-handed pole arm with a long blade and spike. It's basically a glaive at this point, I imagine, not knowing much about them, and a spiky bit for something. So I read a little bit more on them, and apparently they're goblin weapons, and goblins would use them as a goblin would to chop horses. So it's a purpose-built weapon specifically designed to combat horses. Now I imagine that in most cases a goblin's problem with cavalry is going to be charging. So goblins are small. They're going to run away from stuff, presumably pretty easily. They also tend to just be kind of scaredy cats, at least in general. I don't want to make assumptions about a whole race, but they're generally described as scaredy cats. So it makes sense that they would flee from big pounding hooves of war horses that are carrying armored or semi-armored and very well-armed beings, humans presumably. They seem to be the biggest of the bandwagon of cavalry users. Anyway, but this doesn't lend itself to me to be ideally suited for a group of goblins, because presumably goblins fight in groups. It only makes sense if you're small, you're going to use numbers to your advantage instead of size. Like a giant wouldn't necessarily want to fight in a large group, or dragon or something like that. It would feel confined. The whole point of it is that it's got lots of room for it to move and be awe-inspiring and terrifying, etc. But goblins, they're tiny, and it makes sense that you're going to want a group of your buds who've all got your back to be standing around you. But this doesn't seem to be useful to one of them, unless it's just given to one person in a group, but that seems like a remarkable amount of organization to me. It seems more likely to me that a group of goblins who have Horsechoppers, they would all have Horsechoppers. They would all just be the Horsechopper group, and they would be lumped together because those are the lads with the Horsechoppers. So they'll share a tent. Maybe they all stack their Horsechoppers in a way that they don't touch the ground or something. I don't know, like rifles. Anyway, it just makes sense that they would be like, oh, the Horsechopper guys, and those are the sword guys, and these are the spear guys, and etc. It seems like very simple organization for a very loose, organized army. So it seems like it would make sense that a large group of Horsechopper people would be together. But these aren't going to work together as a group. It seems like they would take wicked amount of wielding force to just... And what's the hook do? Do you push the blade forward? Because there's no point at the top. There's nothing there. So it would make sense if there was a point and a hook, because it would be kind of like a boar spear, which has those crossbars. So you'd use the point and to pierce the horse, but only so far, so that the hook would then prevent the horse from riding all the way down your spear and crushing you. But they're called choppers, so maybe they're used for beheading horses, but it doesn't seem like goblins would just, in the face of a charging cavalry, chop horses' heads off. Like, I guess, like roll underneath the, barreling down corpse or something. I don't know. It doesn't seem to follow to me that this design makes any sense at all for any kind of group. Now, maybe one-on-one, you could... Even then, it doesn't really seem to be very effective against horses. So, I have a different design. Let me show you guys. This is a world first. This is what I think Horsechopper should look like. Is again, long shaft. We have a spike on the end, not jutting perpendicular to the handle, but again, going parallel, and a long cutting edge that runs all the way down the front. And the reason you might prefer a Horsechopper like this is because, first of all, you and your mates who all have Horsechoppers can use these as a group. So you and a group of 6 or 7 other mates with Horsechoppers can all stand around and use these effectively against charging cavalry. You can all line up, or you can have just a little lump of you with a few of you behind, a few of you in front, and you can all use your Horsechoppers at the same time because you can poke them through the formation or the loose formation they're in. And that point seems like it's going to be more effective in preventing a horse charge than this giant blade. So I think that they would be used to, they would hold them up in front of cavalry charge. Perhaps they would be laying on the ground first, so that the cavalry would be induced into charging, and then the goblins would all pick them up. Perhaps they would carry them the whole time, who knows. But they would lower them or raise them, as the case would be, and the cavalry would charge, and that there would be a few things that could happen at that point. Because horses are not going to run headlong into a giant spike on the end of a stick, being held by a bunch of tiny goblins. What they're either going to do is A, stop, B, divert, or C, I don't really see a C. Maybe, I guess they could just carry forward. Let's just say that that's possible. So A, they stop. So what happens? The rider either keeps going, or they stop all of a sudden and the rider's still on top, and then you have very ample opportunity for you to just poke the rider, because the rider has no idea what's going on at that point, presumably. Or poke the horse, etc., forcing the horse to collapse, and that gives you the opportunity to kill the rider. Or B, the horse diverts course, in which case you could lower this and cut hamstrings across of a formation of cavalry. It would be difficult, but it's possible for a few people to just hold things out and for horses to run into them. And given if it's sharp enough, perhaps it's jagged or something at the end, perhaps this cutting edge might be serrated, in which case you could just basically hold it there and the horses would do all the work. In which case you would be hamstringing a bunch of horses falling onto the ground, which would trip up all the horses behind them, and you'd have a great opportunity for your mates to stab a bunch of riders again. Or the horses could keep going, in which case they just run to a point and they collapse on you, which would be horrifying as a goblin, but I guess it's all's fair in love and war. But I submit that Horsechoppers would work much more like this, as opposed to this weird glade hook thing that they're proposed as.